Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. Welcome, guys. And we have a special guest. Sorry, I'm chuckling. Just the first time we saw the video. So,
wasn't it a
thanks,
dope video?
Travis.
That was pretty cool.
The video was dope.
It made me look like I was good at karate at one point. Yes, with us is he is a sport karate legend, that's for sure. But it's more than just that. He's a weapons champion. He's a point fighting champion. He's a super fights champion. He's a kickboxing champion. The one, the only, Ross Turbo Levine.
Thank you, sir. What's
Welcome,
up? What's up?
man. Welcome.
Come on, fellas. I feel like I haven't seen you in a little while.
Yeah. It's been a couple weeks. Yeah, that was good. I love the Glory shirt. I think you're still under contract with Glory, right?
I'm still under contract with Glory. Don't really know what's going on right now. There's obviously they're. I don't want to say they're in hot water, but we're seeing a lot of changes happen. So, as far as I know, I'm still under contract. That's what my manager tells me. So we're just waiting to see what's going on.
Good.
A lot of changes in the upper management, and they're supposedly running some shows in October in the Netherlands. Unfortunately, I can't get over there yet because of the EU travel ban. But we'll see what happens. I know there's a couple other guys that are fighting. Actually, so really interesting. I'm not sure how much you guys follow Raymond Daniels, but Raymond is fighting on Friday.
Yeah.
I'm going to be hanging out with Mallory Woods doing the fight breakdown and some commentary with him and Robin.
Oh, dope.
Yeah, that's been awesome, man.
So I'll get to kind of commentate on Raymond's fight, and Raymond is fighting a Glory kickboxer. So it's going to be really interesting. Yeah, Peter Stanonik is undefeated in Glory. Undefeated kickboxer.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting. But obviously, I'm clearly pulling for Raymond. But Pete's a wild dude, man. Good fighter, good stand-up fighter.
Well, and this ain't Raymond's show. This is yours. But ever since you brought it up, what is? I don't really know much about Peter. What is something that he's great at?
He's a southpaw. Very good traditional Muay Thai. Good defense. He packs a good punch. He kicks hard. He punches hard. He's got some really nice knockouts on his resume with kickboxing and in MMA. He hasn't, from what I understand, he hasn't done mixed martial arts in a little bit, so I don't know where his ground game is at. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what his strategy is going to be going into it. But when you're just looking at the fight from an outsider and then knowing Raymond, Stanonik is a southpaw, which instantly sets him up for more spin kicks because that's his body side. Raymond's southpaw, Pete's southpaw, so that allows the spin on both sides, to come through without Raymond having to step. So he'll be able to hide it a little bit more. So if he keeps it standing, I have to lean towards Ray. I don't know what the ground game looks like for either of them. So, I can only go based on what I see and, shooting for Ray, obviously.
Yeah, that's good. I think also just like a southpaw, just in kickboxing, for the most part, it's almost like a left side front fighter in point fighting. Like if you're a left side front fighter in point fighting, like you're the unicorn, right?
Yeah.
If you're kicking with that side, like most point fighters would, the majority of them would have their right side in front, right? Just
correct. Yeah.
Us,
at least
right?
most Americans.
Exactly.
Yeah,
most Americans. So if he's used to most people fighting with their left, and now he's going to go with Ray fighting with southpaw as well.
And the side stance and the little gloves, like it's just a different game. I think Ray's just going to be really comfortable in the big ring. Bellator has a huge cage, so I think there's a lot of advantages.
Benefit Ray.
It's MMA, man. You never know. One
right.
shot change everything. But obviously, for the sport karate world, we're pulling for Raymond.
Oh yeah,
see him do well.
Good luck, Pete.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. But this ain't about Pete. This ain't about Ray. This is about Turbo. So
yes, sir.
I'm really glad that you came on. I had to go extra with the shirt. I had to go. We got an extra guy on. I had to go
I'm an extra guy. I didn't know I was an extra guy.
Oh my goodness! You bring a little extra to a lot of stuff.
I appreciate that.
when you're competing, and that's a lot of what we want to get into.
Yeah.
So you've been competing regardless of circuits, nationally in sport karate for a very long time. About when did all that stuff start to happen?
Well, I mean, started martial arts when I was 7. I want to say competing nationally really when I was about 12, 13 years old. So my first ever competition that was outside of our school was the Empire State Nationals. I was 11, and I was a color belt, so I was still a red belt. And funny that, like, I don't remember a lot from that event. I remember doing traditional forms and doing Jungun Taekwondo, right? Mm-hmm. But in that form has a step jump side kick, and I remember stumbling a little bit on the side kick, and my center referee was Muhammad Jahan Vash. Those are the two things I remember from my first ever event. But then fast forward a little bit, my parents used to drive me all over. Jeff, you're going to be familiar with this crew, that whole crew in the DMV, the Promoters Plus League.
Right.
So there wasn't a whole lot going on in New York City. They would have little events here and there, like New York, New Jersey. Then they had the Crane Circuit up north, but there was also the Promoters Plus League. And Promoters Plus, Alex, I know you're not super familiar with them, but
never heard of it.
It was a local promotion in like Delaware, Virginia, Maryland, DC, and man, like they could fight, dude. Yeah. Everyone in that league could freaking fight. They were all tough. Everyone was brought up hard. Like, it was just a great experience for me to go in and kind of get my feet wet. So I would bounce back and forth. I mean, there were times that my dad would ask me on like a Friday night, like, hey, there's a tournament tomorrow in DC. Do you want to go? I'd be like, yeah, I want to go. All right, we got to wake up at 3:00 in the morning. I was like, all right, cool. So we would just pack up the car, go. My dad would drive me all the way down there, compete all day, drive all the way back, stop at the Maryland house for, whatever, Roy Rogers or something like that.
Oh, yeah. Right, Roy Rogers.
And no kidding, I must have competed easily 35 weekends out of the year. Easily, as a kid. And my parents would just ship me all over the place, man. So they were the true unsung heroes, just dedicated to letting me be passionate and doing what I love.
And your parents, I've gotten a chance to just meet them, talk to them, get to know them. Your dad is fun and funny.
Yeah, he's a wild dude, man.
Yeah.
Shout out to my parents. It's their anniversary today.
Today?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, happy anniversary,
Happy anniversary.
Mr. and Mrs. Levine.
Yeah, if you want to see a funny picture, go on my Facebook. I posted a picture from back when their wedding days.
I'm going to have to check that out.
Yeah, super funny.
That's pretty good. I was showing a picture. It was like a home video. I accidentally came across it last weekend from like 1991. And there was a picture of my mom and dad. And my wife just goes, your parents are an odd couple. What in the world are they doing together? I'm like, oh, yeah, that's right, because they're not still together. So there you go. So that gives it to you. But yours, yes. How many years is this for them?
My brother is 2 years older than me, so my brother's 34, and they got pregnant with my brother on their honeymoon, so 34
35,
years?
Somewhere in there.
34, 35.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
All right. So you were doing that. You were competing.
There it is. Boom. Look at that guy. My mom is gorgeous, man. She was a hot ticket. I don't know how she pulled my dad or how my
with
dad
the
pulled
leisure
her.
suit too.
Wow.
That's
good
good
stuff. That's classic.
All right. So you're getting bust all over, going from tournament to tournament, 35 weekends out of the year, you're saying?
Easily.
All right. So when did you train? Did you train like really out of just like one school? Were you going from school to school? How did that really go?
So I started off in T-Kang Taekwondo down in Brooklyn. Actually, a lot of my original instructors were competitors at one point. So not too many people know this. One of my very first instructors was Miss Maggie Messina. So Maggie was Taekwondo black belt from the same system. If you guys remember, I know, Jeff, you remember Joel Otero.
Yeah.
So Joel was out of that system as well. And then there were a couple other guys that didn't really make as much noise on the circuit, but those were some of the people that kind of groomed me as a kid. Awesome. And then by the time I was like 13, 14, maybe 15, I started competing a little bit more with a couple other people from the school that I was training at, like Jeremy Epstein was one of the kids from the school. So we had our own little unit, and then a lot of the instructors were done competing. They hadn't gone, or they went off and broke off, did their own thing. And the staff really didn't want us competing because they didn't want the other students to latch onto that and be like, well, how come he's doing it, but this guy but we can, or whatever. And they had a business model that they were trying to do. So we said, well, if we can't go compete, then we're just going to have to go somewhere else. So we went and started doing Olympic Taekwondo, which I enjoyed the training. It was actually the head instructor of the Taekwondo school for Kang system, his brother. So I think I want to say there were 3 brothers. Tae-sun Kang was doing ITF Taekwondo, and then Ho-sun Kang was doing WTF, Olympic style. So I transitioned
very
into
different, very, very different too, right?
Very different. I got disqualified a lot. So I didn't really like that, but it was great training. So I was doing that, and then I got a phone call from Alex Davidov, and I was 17, and he said, "Hey man, I'm opening up a gym in Brooklyn. I'm trying to get a staff together. I know you're from here. Like, would you want to teach at the school?" So I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll teach. A little bit extra money." Alex was a competitor, so it was like we're gonna create this like masterpiece of a school, and we did. Like, it was the staff at AmeriKick in Brooklyn was Alex was the owner, and then it was myself, this kid Ralph Marchetti, who wasn't a competitor but very, very talented, and then it was Manny Brown, Anthony Murata.
Crazy. Wow. Crazy, right? Yeah.
It was
that's right, when Anthony moved to New York. That's right.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
wow.
So not only were we all like competing, but we were training together. So it was cool, man. So that's really where I stopped as far as like attending different schools. But along the way, like as far as my fighting career goes, I had met Hakeem Walker at a seminar. And I started training with Hakeem Walker at a gym that was owned by Willie Marshall down in Coney Island. And then they kind of groomed me until there was one day when, Hakeem said to me, there's just not much more I can teach you. I need to bring you to Jadi. So he brought me over to Jadi school. My parents went with me, and I officially met Jadi. At the time, I only knew him as a super fighter. So I was 16 years old at the time.
You'd probably known him, for a couple of years, like in the background, like watching.
Yeah. Just knew him from competing, watching him fight, watching videos, hearing his name. He was kind of like a ghost at the time because he was just smashing everybody. But I never actually met him. And to be honest, I really didn't compete that much locally, and I wasn't traveling the NASCAR circuit that much. So at the time, I knew who he was, but I didn't know much about him other than he was a monster. And he was just that. When I met him, he just wiped the floor with me, man. And I remember coming home, and I was like, I have to do this all the time. I have to be here every day if I can. So I started training consistently with Jadi, and then, started traveling the NASCAR circuit a little bit more, and then it just progressed until where we're at now.
Nice.
I've heard some like stories about people just going and doing some like training or one-on-one training with Jadi. And what I was able to gather with it is it sounds like the Bronx version of Cobra Kai.
I wouldn't say that. I
haven't done it. So I don't know.
I wouldn't say that. I think people get the wrong idea from Jadi because, he is what he puts out there for himself. When people look at Jadi online, that's who Jadi is. So I think some people expect something different. And when they get to the gym and he's that loud, intense, in-your-face guy, they're like, oh, my God. And then he whoops your ass. And maybe it feels like Cobra Kai because he can be obnoxious at times. He's loud. He's in your face. It's just no nonsense. Like, if you come here to train, you better show up in shape, ready to train, or come back next time. So I think if you're prepared for that, it was an awesome environment. But you've seen a lot of people kind of come in and out of that gym, and there's not too many people that last or that really succeed in that environment.
Right. Interesting.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you met Jadi, and then you're still a junior at this point.
Yeah, 16.
But you've been but you've been doing weapons competition for a while to this point too.
Yep.
I don't know anything about how that started, what your training was like with that, who your coaches. I don't know nothing about that. Yeah. I know that you're one of my favorites to watch with that.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that.
By far. But tell me how all that got. Get us up to date with that.
So I mean, we got to backtrack.
That's what you were wondering too, right, Jeff?
Well, yeah, that and with some other stuff, but we'll get there.
We'll get there. We got plenty of time. My draft's not until 10, fellas. I got all night.
Oh God.
And my lovely fiance is going to get me some ice cream, so I'll be ready to go. That's love, man. That's love.
Well, wow.
So my experience with the bow was actually not my first weapon. And when I first started playing with weapons and trying to do some different things, I saw it in competition and I got excited. I was like, man, that's really cool. And it wasn't something that we did at our Taekwondo school. So I didn't know anyone that can teach
Taekwondo schools do weapons.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, some do, but only if they're competitive. And certainly the ones that do teach weapons are not they're not teaching it the way that we see it in NASCA.
Correct.
So I right off the bat, I was like, I don't want to do bow because everybody did the bow. Mm-hmm. So
all right.
I was like, I'm not doing that. I want to do something that nobody does. I tried chucks, not good at it. Too much going on. I tried commas and I really liked commas, but I couldn't, I wasn't as good at doing the jump kicks, the flips and all that stuff. So I was like, man, this isn't the one. So I latched on to Tonfa, which most people have no idea of. My dad has got to have some old school VHS tapes of me doing Tonfa. And I'd love to see them. So I picked up Tonfa. My dad bought me a couple of like black and blue videos. And I was self-taught with Tonfa. So just watching video.
Yeah, that's the same thing with me. I picked Sai because nobody was doing that. And same thing, self-taught Sai. And and then eventually went to bow and then comma. But yeah, the same thing, man. It's like wanting to do something that no one else does and then trying to, which I think everybody needs to do, right? You got to, it's good to learn all of them, learn a little bit and figure out what works for you. So
so I really enjoyed it. I still enjoy it. I don't have a pair, but I would if I ever go to a school, like occasionally I'll go to schools and I'm teaching a seminar, and if I see a pair of Tonfa laying around or any weapon, I'll just pick it up and start playing with it and see what I'm capable of and do stuff that I've seen other people do. But so I really love Tonfa, but I started competing and I was doing traditional Tonfa. And I was entering the open division doing Tonfas, like treating them like commas. Like I would do wrist rolls and throw them, catch them, like figure eights, all this stuff. Like, and I just was never really getting any love with it because they're like, that's not how you use Tonfa, especially like in the local circuits. So I was like, you know what? Fine. I saw Nate Andrade. I saw Mike Bernardo. I saw Casey Marks. I saw Gary Waugh. And I was like, you know what?
Gary Waugh, that's a good one.
I was like, I'll give it a shot. So I pick up a bow. I picked up a Mike Bernardo DVD, VHS.
Yeah.
And a Casey Marks VHS, and which I still have, by the way, both of them somewhere in Florida.
Yeah.
And again, self-taught as much as I could, just through video. So then, gosh, I'm not even sure if I should say this person's name. Because he got himself into some trouble back in the day. I don't even know where this person is now. But, Jeff, do you remember the original Karate Cares team?
Yes,
so I do. Way back, like where Matt Emming first. So you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Is it safe to say this person's name?
I don't know if it is or not. I know we see some videos of him on Facebook every now and then. But
oh, really? Wow.
Well,
anyway.
From old back
he was a competitor. I mean, if we can still say John Boyd's name, then we can say the first person who showed me actual instruction with the bow was a guy named Jimmy Bonfiglio. Yeah. He was with Joyce Santa Maria. He was involved with the Empire State Nationals. He got himself into some stuff. No idea where he is now. In any case, he was the first person that would do any like one-on-one training with me because he was out in the island. So it was close for me to get out to. Kept growing and growing from there. Did some seminars, and then I remember seeing Nate Andrade at the New England Open, and I was talking to my dad. I was like, that guy is awesome because he was so big and he just does so many different things. Like, everything was like magnified, obviously, because he was huge and his bow was big. And
how tall is Nate? Is he like 6'3", 6'4"?
He's 6'8", man.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah.
Is he really?
6'8".
He's gigantic.
Yeah. So it was just kind of like I was watching. I was telling my dad, like, man, that guy's really, really good. Like, he's awesome. And I was like, yeah, he really is awesome. And then I remember my brother was starting to look at colleges. So it had to be also around. I had to be 15 because my brother was 17. So we're making trips across the U.S. He's like looking at colleges. My brother's looking at UMass. And Nate lived in Marion, Mass at the time, out on the Cape. Right. Without telling me, my dad was like, "You're coming with us. We're going to go look at this school." And I remember he drove me out. He dropped Josh off at the school, my brother, and he drove me like 2 hours out, dropped me off. I met Nate. I didn't know this was happening. And he's like, "Nate, he's yours for the day." And I just took a complete – if you can take an ass whooping training the bow, like just beating myself to death, man. He worked me for probably, I want to say we trained for like 4 or 5 hours that day.
Yeah.
And that's when we hit it off. And he just like, kind of the same way with Jody, I think Nate recognized my work ethic. And I think Jody recognized my work ethic, and he realized that they both realized I wasn't just some kid who wanted a lesson to make my day. Like, I really wanted to be great. And both of them at different times kind of took me under their wing, and I started training with Nate, and that was really my full-time instructor. He taught me everything I know about most weaponry.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, all right. So as a junior, what was your first team? Because I think this is a fun fact.
You've had a few of them.
You've had a lot during your junior time, a few. But let everyone know what was the first team that you were a part of?
Well, like recognized team is different than the first team that I was ever on was just like a local team that we were sponsored by my dad's Teamster union, because my dad worked for the Teamsters. So they sponsored a couple of our local guys. And then the first team I was a part of was actually Team Jungle Cares, Team Sidekick.
Yeah. Team Sidekick. Yep.
Yep. I went to the Team Sidekick tryout and did that whole thing. It was really cool, actually. They invited people down like a couple days before the event, because the Sidekick Internationals at the time was a really big event.
Yeah.
And he would have people come down, and it was like a 2 or 3 day tryout process where you would do like skill training, some conditioning, and then you would come up in front of the judges, the panel, which I think was like John Chung, some of the other members, like Al Safransky was still there. So she was a kid, but she was like sitting on the panel because she was like an all-time member. I think Kevin Kowalczyk was part of that team too.
Yeah.
John Sue. So like I was hanging out with all these people and like doing your form in front of them. That was like my first tryout. And then we competed that weekend. They announced the members of the team after the event. So that was my first team. And then I got
was that the largest team you've ever been a part of?
No, Full Circle.
Full Circle was bigger than that.
Hell yeah.
At that time, yeah.
At the time. Because I
started when Ross was on it, but when Jungle Care happened, they had like 4 different teams. Like,
oh, really?
Yeah, they had like different levels, and like an A team, a B team. Then they actually had a team that went to NBL, the team with NASCAR. Then they had a team that did both. They did everything. So like that.
And you heard that intro music.
Yeah.
All the time.
Yeah.
Did you have that intro music too?
No. So
Jungle Love.
So
it's a great song by the time.
So I was the last. I was actually looking forward to it. I was in that last. So now that you're saying it's bringing back memories, because I do remember that it was not called Jungle Care. Right. It was Team Sidekick International, and there was an A team and a B team. And then that was the year that they did away with the intro music.
Yeah.
So I didn't get a chance to use the intro music. I was like, oh man, that takes away half the fun.
Right.
And then shortly after that, they were kind of just breaking down and disbanding. Everyone was kind of going their other way. I got an offer from Team DS.
Yeah.
So,
Daniel Sterling's team.
So I went to Daniel Sterling's team. I think
this has got to be like what, around 2001, 2002?
I'll tell you what. I can tell you what happened at almost every tournament I've ever been to, but I'm really not good with years.
Not good with years.
I'm not good with years. I can tell you the color carpet of almost every, major NASCA event and like the design, but I can't bring back years for some reason. So I don't know what year that was, but Jeff, you probably know better.
It's one of those two. It's got to be 2001.
It was around that range. So
something like that. Cause I mean,
it
I
wasn't
had
2000
to be,
and it wasn't 2003.
Because I had to be 14, 15. No, I was already working with Nate. So I had to be at least 15 because I don't think I was on DS when I went to Jotty. So I would say I was probably about 15.
Yeah. And then from there, you went to what team? From there?
I actually had a brief stint with WKF. Most people don't know that.
Yep.
I was on WKF as a junior. And then let's see.
You did some like junior team fighting stuff with him. You were there for a little bit. I remember you did like I remember seeing you do junior team fighting at did you also do it at Bluegrass?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Had some really good fights at Bluegrass. It was never like at Bluegrass, it was never a full WKF team, but we did always have pieces together. The one time it was a complete WKF team was Capital Classics. It was myself, this kid Isaac, and Damian Rodriguez.
Nice.
Yeah, it was cool. Isaac Alfonso. And then so I went from WKF, and I believe the last team I was on as a junior was a team called J. Phillips.
Yeah.
And they had sponsored a lot of juniors and a couple adults. And they wanted to make a big push, and then things just fell apart with sponsorship.
Right. It lasted for like a year.
Yeah, a little longer than a year, I'd say.
A little longer, but I just remember starting dropping out after that year.
And they wanted nothing to do with fighters. Was that right?
So at first, no. At first, they were just like, we're going to be a forms team. They wanted to do demo. They wanted to do team sync. And there was a lot of really good competitors on that team. And then they said, you know what, maybe we will do some fighting. They had talked about bringing on some different fighters, and then it just
they had like Kyle Richards and I thought Marcus Dumlau on there. And a couple other ones I remember from that area that I was like, whoa, all right, this is going to be different. So
and then my very last tournament as a junior, I actually fought with Team Pro Rank.
Yeah.
So that was like Pan Americans 2005, I think.
Yeah, because then after that was when you moved up to adult, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Let's see, was that the year the AKAs was in the
October.
end of the year? Yeah, October. So that was your first adult tournament, right?
Yeah.
All right, let's go ahead and get into that and how that all happened, what that was like for you.
Just to answer Katie, yes, Jenny was on J. Phillips. That's right. We used to train together every time I went down to Florida. So my first adult tournament was crazy, man. I think I didn't have a lot of expectations for myself, but I remember wanting to move up early. We had sent a letter to Larry Carnahan and asked him if I could move up at the Diamonds, because it was like 2 or 3 days before my birthday.
Right.
And he said no. He's like, you're not fighting at the Diamonds. You got to wait until next year, and then that's when you can fight in the adult division. So
what weight would you have fought at there? Would you have fought like light heavy?
Light heavyweight.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who won that?
Because that's what I fought. I fought light heavyweight at AKA.
Yeah. Nice.
So I don't know who won that year, light heavyweight.
Light heavy, 2005.
Yeah.
Who was that?
Good at this stuff too.
Could have been anybody, really. Yeah. Light heavy, I'm not sure. I don't know. It was a weird division at that time, too.
Yes, it was.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
in any case, I didn't have a lot of expectations, but at the time, like, Jotty was grooming me. He was like, you're ready. He's like, if you're going to AKA, you're winning. He's like, you're going to win. And I was like, all right, I'm going to win. Like, sounds good. And then we put together the team, and I was like, all right, I wanted to get the team fighting rounds in just as like a warm up and shake some stuff out. And I remember we went in and team fought, and we were crushing everybody. And I was like, all right, this is going to be cool.
So then, it was, when you say we, so it was me, you, and
Bernard
Paquette.
Yep.
Yes. Let's just say this for a moment. I didn't know Bernard.
Yeah. Neither did I really.
And we're just like, man, you want to do team fights? Like, yeah, I don't have anybody to team fight. You want to team fight? We'll team fight. And so they're like,
who you want to fight? Before. I remembered seeing him a lot at Quebec Open because I went to Quebec a lot as a kid, and he was always one of the guys that was on stage doing like those special team events.
Right.
Like Clermont always had them on stage. I remember one year they did like Team Continuous, and then they did like a USA versus Canada team fighting. And I just remember seeing the Hugo Boss jersey, and I was like, oh, they're good. Like, they're pretty good. They're some of the best in Canada. So when we saw him there, I was like, that gard's good. Let's see if he has a team. And he was like, no, he didn't really speak much English.
No, he didn't.
No.
and Bernard was a savage, man.
So here's the training. Here's the funny part.
What's up, Leon?
Jeff, let me paint this picture. So Bernard doesn't speak that great at English, so he wasn't really speaking at all.
Right.
Yeah. We asked him. He basically nodded his way through whole fight. And so then we're kind of sitting around. I'm a little dinged up. Well, I'll talk about that later if it comes up. But Bernard is in the corner, blitzing the wall.
Crazy.
He's blitzing, punching the wall.
Yeah.
Ross nudges me like, look at this
dude. And I was like, we're going to be all right. I'm like, this could go pretty well. That's crazy, man. And then so we did really well, and I was like, all right. It kind of gave me a little boost for the next day. Ben Stewart, yes, he is.
He's pretty solid.
He's solid, and he's a wild man in and outside of the ring, but good dude. We were teammates actually on Wassaru, but funny stories with that another time.
Right.
So the next day comes around. And I did weapons, did really well.
Right.
Made the finals for creative weapons.
Okay.
You won the cup.
Well, yeah, but this Friday. I'm still on Friday.
I'm sorry. I'm stealing your thunder, man.
The Saturday pops up, and then again, didn't really have huge expectations, but I remember Jotty texting me and just like go in there and go dominate, do what you do, like you're the man, you got this, it's all good. So I go in there and first fight, who do I pull? Bernard Paquette. This dude is slamming reverse punches into the wall, and I'm like, Jesus Christ, this guy's gonna murder me. I end up beating Bernard 5-0. And then I had another fight who I also beat 5-0. And
this is when they had the 5 spread rule.
Yeah, it was a 5 spread. And then I think my last fight for the division might have been Steve Hart. Because I think I beat Steve Hart like 5-3 or 5-2 or something like that.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right. And now I'm watching some of the other divisions, and there really wasn't anybody that I knew in heavyweight. So when I got into the heavyweight ground, I was like, all right, I'm gonna win this fight. And oh man, what was the dude's name? He fought in the UFC too. Oh man, it's.
You're gonna
help me out. Help me out.
Yeah,
somebody out there, help me out. Who did I fight? 2005 AK. It'll come to me.
Goodness. Yeah.
Solid dude.
Wow.
He hadn't been around in a long time. And then he just kind of popped up out of nowhere.
Okay.
And won the heavyweight division.
The only person I can think of would be like a Jeff Newton, but I don't.
No.
The one I can think of.
Alan Belcher.
Oh, wow. Okay. Alan Belcher, actually. Okay.
Yeah.
I've seen him at karate tournaments, but I've never seen him.
I was not going to get that one.
Tournament. So, yeah.
Yeah. I knew it coming.
I've seen him a lot in New Orleans and everything. But
Yeah. So Alan Belcher fought, and so I beat Alan Belcher. And then at that time, it was lightweight, middleweight, heavyweight, and then the 30+.
Right.
So what would happen at that time, for those of the people who are young enough or don't remember those karate days, when you got those final 4 down to the grand, what you would do is the lightweight fought the middleweight, the heavyweight fought – random draw. So it was a random draw to get those final 4 to match up, and whoever had the biggest point spread would get the bye to go into stage, like if something was off. So I remember I ended up fighting – I don't remember who I fought first in the runoff, but I had a 5-point spread. And then – or maybe – all right, I think I got it. So Larry Tankson, because the final 3 were myself, Larry Tankson Sr., and Ryan McGriff. I think Larry 5-0'd whoever he fought in like the 30+ side.
I'll tell you how it went down. So
Let me out.
This is Alex Reyes won the middleweight grand.
Okay.
Alex Reyes fought and won the middleweight grand. There's more to that, but that's the end result. Okay.
So did he bow out?
He bowed out to Larry. So Larry got a 5-point spread.
That's okay.
So
there
now
you go.
you had to fight Ryan McGriff
For 1 point.
And I gave you bad advice.
I don't remember even talking to you before it, but
I told you, because I looked at him and I'm like, I told you to do what I would do. And I said, side kick right through him. Side kick his hip. Go right through him. And Ryan slipped a kick over the top of you.
He must have, by the way, he must have hit me when we did that 1 point face off to see who was going to get the bye or not. He must have kicked me in the head 3 or 4 times. And like, there were like a couple exchanges where nobody saw anything. And I just remember leaving that. What's up, Mal?
What's happening, Mallory?
And I remember going back to my room after and being like, I'm going to get my ass kicked by this dude if I fight him again. Aside from the fact that I was already kind of nervous because I'm fighting Larry Tankson, like I was more nervous to fight Larry Tankson than I was to fight Ryan McGriff, put it that way. Just because that same thing, that legend status, and I'm kind of new coming up in the game. I didn't know what to expect. I call up Jotty and I'm like, hey, what's up, man? I'm on stage. Like, I got Larry Tankson. And if I win that, I'm fighting Ryan McGriff. He's like, don't worry about Larry. You're going to beat him. Don't fall for any of his tricks. Just fight like you were fighting in the dojo. He's like, Ryan McGriff is a sucker for a back fist. He's like, just pay attention on your back fist, read the leg, and it's yours. And I go in there, I beat Larry, and then I ran through McGriff. I must have hit him with 6 or 7 stepping back fists, and that was my first overall, my first adult event.
Awesome. And then you ended up winning the weapons as well, right?
Then I won the Warrior Cup for weapons too, which was a crazy stacked division. It was myself, Jonathan Boyd, John Sue, Terry Jacoby, Lauren Carney. I think Caitlin
Matt Emig? Was Matt Emig in there too?
Matt wasn't there.
No.
He wasn't there for weapons.
Yeah, I guess not. Yeah, because I don't remember Matt being there at all, to be honest with you.
He was there. He had just turned 18 too.
Yeah, but I can't remember. I don't know why he would, unless he dropped in all of his divisions.
Right.
Maybe.
But in any case, that was that. So crazy event, man.
Awesome.
Yeah, that was a great breakout event. I've never known anybody to win 2 Warrior Cups before that.
I know Mike Bernardo had done it, but he did it for forms and weapons. And I think someone else did it for forms and weapons, but never for one of those and sparring.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, and then
are you still the only one ever?
Yep.
Yeah.
And to this date, how many Warrior Cups do you have?
9.
Shut the front door.
Yeah, 9.
That's awesome, man. So that's cool that you like your first tournament was one that kind of I would say that you were most known for in some ways, you know, like you had the most Warrior Cups, you had the most success, and that was your first adult event. So it's pretty cool how it went all the way that way. And you made sure even your last few years that you were competing to make sure you hit that event, right?
Yeah, I tried. Not like I think one of my very last year, I want to say I went to the event and I won my 9th. But it was one of those events where I fought my teammate like all the time at that event. There was only a couple times where in the final I didn't end up fighting my teammate, which goes to show I was on some pretty darn good teams. But it was just weird the way it worked out. But I had a lot of really, really good, memorable fights at that event.
Awesome. And now after that, I know Jotty and some of the guys in New York were putting together a team that represent New York, and that kind of started off kind of your.
That was like immediately after.
Right. It was right. Well, it was already in the works. It just hadn't come to fruition yet. We were actually trying to start a reality TV show. So there was a group. Yep, it was going to be called Road Warriors, and they were going to cover
like Road Warriors, like the wrestling team.
Whatever you want to call it, or like Road Warriors.
Whatever you want to think it was. But the whole
Jeff, look at that. I referenced wrestling. Come on. I got 10 cool points for that one.
The whole preface of it was they were going to they were going to follow this team that trained in the Bronx together, this New York-based team. It was myself, Jody, Lawrence Ray, Kodak, and Hakeem Walker. Yeah. So it was the four of us, and then they were going to follow us as we trained, prepared for competition, then traveled the U.S. like road warriors, and dominated. That was the plan. And the first event that they were going to film was the Las Vegas Legacy. Last year they did that event.
Right.
And then they had set up a California, or it was East Coast versus West Coast, but it was really New York versus California out there. It was pretty cool. Awesome. So that was out. We did 2 events as Team NYC. We did that one, and then like as a team. So we did that event where I was still the new kid on the block. So even though I was successful, we went in there and I didn't team fight with them. I was like the reserve. Because I want to say their team, it was obviously Raymond, Jack, Mike Pombero, and Justice Lawrence. And I was the reserve fighter. So that's how that went. But then
we were reserve fighter for the West Coast team?
No, I was the reserve fighter for the East Coast team because we went in there and it was Jody, Hakeem, and
gotcha.
And Lawrence.
Yeah, you were fourth up.
Yeah, I was the fourth guy, but it was 3-man events, so I didn't fight. Gotcha. And then we went to the Super Grands. So we went to Super Grands, and we won the team event 2005 at Super Grands. Right. Jody wasn't able to make it, so it was myself. Jody was there. Jody was there. It was me, Jody, and Hakeem.
Yeah.
And we fought. What was the name of the team? Brandon Birch's team in the final.
DDX.
Yes, right? We fought DDX in the final. I beat Marty May, and then I forget who Hakeem fought.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
It might have been Troy Whaley.
Could have been Ryan Gonzalez or one of those guys were on there. Or Wade.
No, I don't think Ryan was there at the time. I think it might have been Troy Whaley, and then Jody fought Brandon, and we won the team event. But we had some crazy fights before that. So the craziest one, the Team United fight.
I was actually a corner judge for that.
Were you really?
Yeah, so I remember that.
That was wild, man. I remember it was I forget the kid's name that I fought. Tall, left like big axe kick.
For United?
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't think of his name. I mean, they had a tag team.
That kid. He was married to Ashley Ortiz, right?
Oh. Yeah, well, how am I having a hard time right now? Dan Marshall.
Dan Marshall. Yeah, so Dan Marshall. I fought Dan Marshall, and then Hakeem had fought Shane from up there, Shane Baker, and then Jody fought Trevor. And so Hakeem had lost by like 2 or 3 to Shane, and then I smoked Dan Marshall bad. Like I must have beat him by like 4 or 5. So we had a lead, and no one expected that because Dan was mowing people down with his leg. Yeah. And then Jody and Trevor just beat the crap out of each other in the center of the ring. Man. It was a crazy fight. And so we beat them, and then we knew it was like, all right, we're going to beat DDX. That's going to be all right.
Right. And then Galio's GOP, that tournament had Jack on their team as well because that was
we didn't fight them, I don't think.
Yeah, no, and that's kind of, I think a lot of people thought that's who, you guys would end up. They ended up losing, I think, to DDX. I
think to DDX, yeah. Because it was an upset. It was a weird fight, but
so that was a good Super Grands as far as talent for teams and stuff. So
that was the first time I fought Trevor.
Right. Yeah. Wow, man, that's awesome.
How did that go? How does you and Trevor have fought a couple of times?
Twice. We fought twice. He beat me both times. That was when I really think I recognized that I was going to be good. Honestly, at that event. Because we won team fighting, I won the Warrior Cup, but at the time I was like, I didn't really fight anybody that I was looking at was like their top gun. Right. And then we went to Las Vegas Legacy. I didn't fare that well. I fought Raymond for the first time. Raymond was up like 4-0, and then Jody called a timeout. He was like, do this, this, and this. And then I started scoring points, and I was like, oh, okay, I could beat this guy. Someday when I'm ready, I'll beat Raymond. And then we go to Super Grands. We win team fights, and I'm like, okay, cool. We beat a couple good fighters. And then I fought Trevor, and Trevor was smoking people. I mean, absolutely destroying everybody. And he beat me 5-3. And I remember he beat me 5-3. And the first kick he hit me with, it was the referee said go, and he threw like a double round. And I just didn't realize how long he was. And he like hit me in the head. And I was like, all right, that was stupid. So really you take away the 2-point head kick and he beat me by 1. So at that point I was like, he's smashing everybody and he's really, really good. And I'm right there. So I'm like, I still have a long way to go in this sport. So I think at that point I really knew that things were going to go in the right direction. So I ended up losing to Trevor. And then the funny super grand story is I lost to who did James Decor.
Yeah.
When I went back in the losers bracket, I was beating James Decor the whole fight. Hit him with a side kick. Referee blows the whistle. He throws a cartwheel, gets 3 points, comes up by 2, steps out of bounds, loses a point. Time runs out.
Yeah.
So I lost. James Decor beat me.
James Decor.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. It's I remember that. You had a busy kind of first kind of year, you know what I mean? And before you even really were fighting adult consistently. So
yeah,
it's a good way to get in there, you know?
Yeah, but when you think about it though, if you think about who I was training with, I was ready.
Exactly. Well, that's the thing. Especially when you're in a camp like that with those type of people, you're ready for it no matter what. So it's
I had been
you
fighting
hit it right on the head, Jack.
I had been fighting adults since I was 16, and it was constant every single week, twice a week. I had Jody in my face, Akin in my face, Hakeem, Mike Simmons. Occasionally, Chris Styles would stop in, and then just the random person who would show up. Jesse Ray would come in once in a while. Kodak would come in once in a while. So it was just there was just so much talent, man. It was crazy. Yeah. Crazy. So when I got out there, it was really no big deal.
Right. So we touched a little. Well, we touched a lot of last time with the mics. About as far as what teams you were on, and getting on CJB and what that was like. And we touched how awesome of a team you guys had. But this was really when you started just coming into your own, right? You can share some about teams, but share more just about you as an individual and where you just kind of felt like when you started feeling yourself getting to that level that you wanted to be at.
It's hard to say. I think obviously, like I was saying before, I kind of knew that I had potential in the sport at that point. But again, it was one of those things where Jody always held me way higher to a way higher standard than I could have ever held myself. And I think the type of person I am, I needed that because I always looked at myself as the underdog. I still do sometimes. Yeah. And other people have always been the one to be like, you're the man. You're going to be the best at this. You're a champion. Just keep going. And if I'd succeed, it was do it again. For the first time I beat Raymond, and because I had beat Ray a couple times, but the first time I beat Raymond and then won the overall was the U.S. Open. Right. And I remember I was so excited. I was all pumped up. I had a really good event. I called up Jody and he was like, oh, I heard you beat Ray. And I was like, yeah. He was like, do it again. Hung up on me. I was like, okay.
I love it.
All right. That's the relationship we still have. He's always the guy that's just pushing, just always pushing. And I think that's where a lot of people fall off when they had worked with Jody in the past. Right. They just couldn't handle that constant. It's never enough. It's never enough.
Right.
But it's in a positive way. From my perspective, it's in a positive way.
Oh, it totally is.
I just know that he's
just an intense guy.
Yeah. And he expects when you put in that work, he expects that to be, he expects you to rise to that occasion every time, and he always had the utmost faith in me and said that I was in total control of my destiny. If I worked hard, the only person that could beat me was me. And I believe that still. So it's a tough question, man. When do I think that I was good? I don't know. That's hard. That's hard to say. I don't think there was a real turning point when I was like, I got it now. Maybe I could say that there was a time when I went on a really long streak of beating Ray. I beat Jack for the first time. I started crossing names off my list. I'm like, all right. But it was really consistency. when I went from, my first 2 or 3 years as an adult, I was winning overalls probably more frequently than most people would, but it was still like I'd win one, then lose 2 or 3 events, then win another, then lose another event, then win another. So it was just like I was spotty.
Right. Right.
So I think it's when I just became more consistent to the point where I was one of those guys that when I walked in, people would be like, damn, he's here. And I think that's when I started getting that recognition and that like notoriety.
Nice. Now,
but again, I never saw myself as that guy.
Yeah, I got it. Now, what was it like? Because people just don't do this anymore. Used to years ago, but what was it like being at a high level in weapons and fighting? And
great question, Jeff.
Winning overalls in both, and you did go to that point where you stopped doing weapons some, but then you kind of went up and down a couple times. And what was that like? Because I think a lot of people kind of have gone there where you're at a point you're like, okay, I got to pick one, right? Yeah. And how'd you stay consistent for a while doing both?
Travis, thank you, man. I don't remember who it was that I fought throughout 2009, or like beat consistency, but thank you, I appreciate that.
The year where you were like the man?
I think so. I guess that's what he was referring to.
I would agree.
Yeah, but you arrived before that. But I would say,
but I think that's it. Like that was the year when I was very consistent.
When it was like when Ross is in there, mentally people were starting to compete for second place.
I was the dark horse, I think, at that year, like 2009, 2010, 2011, and then like 12, 13, 14, 15 is when I started like really taking off and becoming
it was over at that point.
It was either me or Raymond,
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So being at a high level with weapons and fighting was honestly, it was very frustrating. Very, very frustrating. And what I mean by that is there was really nobody that respected the fact that I was the only one doing both at a high level. Correct. So I remember one of the most frustrating events for me, and honestly, this is why I got turned off and stopped doing weapons. It was the Gator Nationals, and I remember I won my weapons division, and I was getting ready to fight, and I won my fighting division, and everyone else, it was like Caitlin Deschelle, Kalman, and I forget who the other person was, someone a little more local. They had just been waiting for me. They're sitting around waiting all day for me to be done fighting. So I win my division, and then I win the runoff. And then, like, I remember Greg Beaver had his megaphone, and I was always cool with Greg Beaver, but this really pissed me off. I had just got done fighting, like I'm dripping in sweat. I still got my helmet on, and he's blowing his megaphone, Ross Levine to the stage. If you're not here in the stage in 5 minutes, you're disqualified. And I'm like, mind you, like the stage is like one ring over, and I'm just like, I just got done fighting. Like, you guys can wait. And then I remember they just kept announcing, like, Ross Levine to the stage, 2 minutes, you'll be disqualified. And I was like, man, just draw without me. I'm like, hey, what's up, Piper? See what I mean? Eventually, I make a cameo everywhere.
That's right. Hey,
Piper, you came in at a good time because we were about to get mad.
Yeah. So that's what it was. She heard me getting mad. And I was like, man, like, just draw for me. I don't even care what number I go up. I'm like, I'll go first. And I was just so pissed that they wouldn't, like, I'm the only one that was doing that. Literally the only one at every event.
At every event.
They were always mad because they had to wait on me.
But at the same time, like, what does it matter? It's just a draw. Why are they going to even have
because at the time, depending on how many competitors were there or how many competitors they'd take to stage, we would do the runoff.
Yeah.
And then you would have to do that.
Because they might not take everybody. They might say, all right, we're only taking 3 out of 4.
Yeah. Or 2 out of 5 or something like that.
They know you're there. They know that you want to do it. So, hey, send someone else to do it. It's not that hard. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It was crazy.
Piper's got a fan club.
She does, man. She's a superstar. But yeah, so we're doing that, and then I was like, forget it, I'll just go first. So I'm like sweating. I just change, and I end up dropping. And I'm like, if you guys could have just given me like 10 minutes to like calm down, like get myself together, like maybe that wouldn't have happened. Maybe it would have, but like it's not like anyone's being held up.
Right.
It just really, really rubbed me the wrong way. And it happened at a couple more events, and I was like, you know what? I'm just so much more dedicated to my fighting than I am at the weapons to just be hassled all the time. And it was like, you know what? It's just one more thing I got to do. I got to wake up extra early. And I loved it, and I love doing weapons, and I still love doing it. I still love training and teaching and doing all that. And at the time, it was like, if I'm going to be elite, like really, really elite, it's one thing to be a high level at both, but it's another to be the best.
Right.
So I was like, I need to cut one out.
Yeah.
And that was just the one that had to go.
Well, you and I had a conversation one time. It was like, it was the Diamonds. And you just got done doing like the first round of the super fights. And then after that, you were the first competitor up. You were the last round of the first round of the super fights. And then you had to be the first one up to go do the weapons.
Yeah. And I had asked them to flip it in the event order. And they said, no. That was the year I fought Elias Lemon. I lost to Elias. And then I had to turn around. I literally turned around, took my gear off, changed my uniform, came right back on, and I did like a half-ass form.
Yeah.
So it was stuff like that. That was like, right. You want me to be a performer, but you also want to rush me and like not. And I'm not saying that they should have catered to me, but I think they could have worked it a little.
Yeah. Right. No, and I get that. And I think a lot of people deal with that, especially when you get to adults, because and that's just what happened. I know for me, that's kind of what made it to where I would be like, no, if you're going to keep going back and forth and this ring and everything, I have to pick
man. It was a lot.
So it's tough, and I don't think that's necessarily fair. I think we could kind of work around that, especially now the way tournaments are going now with the sessions. You can make it work to where it's not as much. You could do the forms during this period and then the fighting in this period. And I hope that maybe we can get to that point. That way, because we need to see more well-rounded martial artists competing, and everyone do it at their best, their highest level.
Well, you want a little bit of silver lining there, Ross? Let's remember when you cut your eye cut and you couldn't fight anymore.
Yeah.
You were still competing with your weapons though at that point, weren't you?
So yes. Yeah, I did a couple events and still did some weapons. So
a little bit of silver lining there, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean,
Drew says, I really enjoy your bow. There are real strikes and tricks that push the creative envelope. Yeah, he's right. Because you did do that. You had some seminars that were fantastic. And because when you were a junior, you would do some extreme tricks. So I remember you did a gainer. Yeah. You did a gainer, and did you do that? No, you did do this. I'm an ass, but I already know that. You put the bow in your mouth.
Yeah.
And did a gainer.
It was the bite gainer. That's right.
But then you had a better bow form without extreme tricks.
Yeah.
A lot better.
Right.
Thank you.
But it's interesting you mentioned like Gary Waugh. Like, because I actually would think about, I didn't know that you would like really model after him and look at it. But when I remember just watching your form and being like, this is a modern day Gary Waugh.
Thank you, man. I modeled a lot of stuff, at least like my intensity and like the damage. Like when you watch Gary Waugh, and I don't know how many people that watch this are forms guys versus fighters, or like what the demographic is that watches the Inside Scoop. But
you're gonna learn today.
We're gonna find out. And so if you go on YouTube and type in Gary Waugh, WAUGH, and every single one of his forms looked like he was in a fight.
Yep.
And that's the way that Nate always instructed me. And I feel that, you know what I mean? Like I could feel it when I did my form, whether it was traditional or creative, I felt like I won, and like won a physical fight. And like, that's how I teach too. So whenever I do private lessons with a lot of like really, I've worked with a lot of talented individuals in the sport, and it's always like, you need to be fighting someone. Like you have to pull that spirit out of you. And like the kid who really did it the best, I would say probably the top two that I really were, or top three that I was really able to make a big influence on. The first one was Andrew Franklin. Mm-hmm. Andrew Franklin was a tricker. Yeah. And I came down that they had liked the way that I did some stuff, and he was one of Mike Chat's guys. And we still kept that in, but I remember just doing lesson, and he would just cry, man. And like, come on, you're better than this. You can do it. You can do it. And the kid went out there. They brought me down in like December, and Mike Chat was like, we need a form. The goal is to win the U.S. Open. I was like, oh, okay. So we're going to win the U.S. Open. We're not just going to get on stage. Meanwhile, no one's ever seen this kid before. And Mike was like, I trust you. He was like, do what you got to do. And we didn't win the U.S. Open, but we got on stage at the U.S. Open. So that was really cool for me. And to see his metamorphosis from like this little skinny tricker to like powering through strikes. And then so then it was Kieran Tamendong. Mm-hmm. So I worked a lot with Kieran. And then Derek Megan. Yeah. Derek was my boy. That kid was an absolute savage. Yeah. Absolute savage. Yeah. So the way that I strike, like if I could have been as strong as he was at his age, man, I think I would have been a whole different animal.
Yeah, he's just amazing.
He's a man child. We used to call him the man child.
Yeah, the man child. Yep.
But yeah, it was the same deal. Like his dad reached out to me and was like, I want to bring you out, like come stay at the house, hang out. And we would just train in the garage, man, for hours. And this kid would just take it. It was awesome. That's crazy work ethic.
That's pretty dang good. Yeah. I knew that you guys worked together. I didn't know his work ethic would like that.
Oh my gosh.
Like that, but that's really good.
Insane. Like he's the type of kid, Kieran too. Like all those kids that I've worked with that really made it far, those kids, they're whatever they touch is going to turn to gold. They're such good kids, and then they're young men and women now, but just very, very talented, very driven individuals. So I'm excited to watch them outside of the sport too. Like that's cool to me.
Okay, so you're on a couple of teams now. You're on CJB. What is Rashad saying? Now I wonder if the weapons game would change, if the judges would appreciate rostering time fights.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what? When you
I bet Rashad can do a Tomba form.
Yeah,
that's what I thought of.
Yeah.
That boy did a broom form last weekend. Did you know that? Did you know that he did a broom form?
I didn't know that, no.
He did a form with an actual broom.
That surprised me.
Yeah. So, yes, you were saying.
So, we talked a little bit about your CJB years. Then you went to Wazaroo. Then you went to Full Circle.
Well, let me correct you real quick.
Go ahead.
So it wasn't like we jumped. It was the same team.
Right. It was the same team.
It was the same team. We just all decided. We just decided we were all going to always stick together. So I know you touched on this with Mike a little bit, so I don't want to repeat too much, but you heard about how I came on with CJB, and then that team went until we couldn't go anymore. And Claremont decided, he was like, I love you, Mike. I love the team. You know, he was a big fan of mine. It was mutual. And Claremont had that going on with Wasaroo up in Canada, the uniform base of the brand. Said, all right, we're going to help sponsor. We're going to use Wasaroo as our sponsorship. And then so we kept the same team, same exact team. And then we absorbed the Canadians. So it was Noemi, Renee, although Renee was already part of that squad, but Jason Grenier and who were we just talking about? Bernard Paquette.
Yeah.
And at one point, Sam Gagnon, or not Sam, Maxime Williams.
Maxime.
Yeah. Sam's twin, basically.
Yeah. You ain't lying.
Pretty much. And then we went with that team until that team couldn't go anymore. And then Claremont was coming out of his pocket to help us out. And then I remember it was Diamond Nationals that year, whatever year it was, 2012 maybe? No, because 2008? Yeah, 2008. Diamond Nationals, I remember we sat down and it was myself, Ryan McGriff, Hamed, and Conroy. We were sitting in the lobby of the Diamond Nationals, and Mike was almost in tears, man. Almost in tears. He was like, we had a lot of stuff going on. Like, we had a couple sponsors, just nothing hit. Like, I know there's going to be other teams looking for you guys. Like, if you get an offer, I want you to go. And Mike's like, you guys are too talented to be doing this on your own. He's like, I want you to go find another team. You're going to be in a good place. And we all just looked around and were like, no, we're not doing that. we were dominating at the time. Like me, Ryan, Renee, and Hamid were just crushing everybody. So we're like, we're sticking together. We're like, Mike, we're with you, man. If you're going to keep looking, we'll keep fighting. We'll pay our own way. Whatever we got to do, we'll do seminars. It is what it is. So we were going.
Funny about what's funny about that is I remember because Hamid, I was close to the guy. I text the guy like every day, right? And at the time, I'm like, dude, what are you going to do? You got no team. He goes, I got a team. I'm like,
yeah.
No, you don't. Like, you don't have it. Like, your sponsor's done. He goes, if I got Conroy, I got a team. Something will happen.
Yeah. That's true, man. That's
if you got Conroy, you got a team.
That's how it was.
Okay.
Seriously. And we were just all so loyal, man. Everything, it was all about loyalty. It was all about family. We trusted each other. And it always worked. And then, we brought on the next year, and then Ocean State happened. And now, so Tom Kelly had approached me at a couple different events. He had approached me at Compete Nationals that year and asked me to be part of the team. And I told him, thank you very much, but I can't. I'm not leaving my guys. And then he approached me at another event. And then he approached me at Ocean State again right after I won the overall. Mm-hmm. And I told him, I was like, Tom, I was almost like getting frustrated. I was like, Tom, you got to stop asking me.
Right.
And I was like, listen, if you want me, you got to take the whole team. And he's like, well, how many people on the team? And he said it so matter of fact. He's like, how many people? And I was like, I don't know. I'm like, talk to Mike. He said right over there. Yeah. And this was literally, we were still in the finals because at Ocean State, we used to go, this was before they did it in the ballroom. So you would have the event that day, and then it was at a community college.
Right.
CCRI. So we'd go over to the community college. So we're in the basketball arena, and I'm like, go talk to Mike. I literally just got off, fighting. I'm still sweating in my uniform. And then like 15 minutes later, they come back over, and they're like, all right, we're part of Full Circle now. And we were all just like, really? Right. And they're like, yeah. And that was the first time that we all clicked and meshed, and that was that. So it was literally but it was the same core. Yeah. I think if I could take that 10, I would say it was myself, Hamid, Ryan, Renee, Claire, Bernard, Jason Grenier, Nico, Damien, and
Jason Borelli. I mean, he hopped on and off.
But Jason was like in and out because Jason wasn't really. No, Jason was already on the All Stars.
Yeah. Oh, at that moment, yeah.
At that moment, so Jason wasn't in the picture. I guess it must have been Noemi. I think it was Noemi because Maxine was on too at that point. So that was our 10, and we merged, and that was that. But my point is, it was the same team throughout. We just stuck together and were loyal to Mike and got the job done.
Right. Yeah, and I mean that was a ride, man. That Full Circle team.
Oh, that was a ride.
The success kind of kept going, and and again, like you said, like Travis was saying, that was kind of, I think, when people just really picked that Ross is the winner. Like Ross is going to be the one that wins it. It's Ross or Raymond pretty much. There was a few others that kind of had some glimpse, some chances, but you guys were the ones, and it kind of created this. Well, it was a rivalry. I mean, I would say needed to be, right?
Oh yeah,
yeah, absolutely, 100% a rivalry, and there was more to it than just me and Raymond. When everyone made the All Stars, when the All Stars team was first put up, and Jason had told Mike, "Hey, I'm going to go with these guys." Mike and Jason had always been very close, very, very close, like father, son, brother, very, very close. And I took that so personally because I was not that I was always fighting for Mike's affection, because that was never the case. Like I knew Mike loved me and knew I was the one, but always had a thing for Jason. Always, no matter Jason could do no wrong in Conroy's book for very long. And Jeff, I know you know how that is.
Yeah.
I'm sure no matter how crazy Jason got, he always had like a soft spot for Jay. And when he left us hanging, man, it rubbed me such the wrong way. And so I had it out for all those guys, every single one of them. I had it out for them.
The All Stars.
Oh yeah. So it was more of just the All Stars were supposed to be this super team that no one was going to beat, but it was also we're better than them. Number one. I'm messing Jason up every time I fight him. I'm messing Raymond up every time I fight him. It was so much to it. There was like every event I just had something. I was just gunning for something just to prove myself.
So it was easy to have just your self-motivation, but it was also a little bit of extra too, right? So
yeah. There was plenty of extra. Yeah. I never needed extra, but I always found extra.
Exactly. You don't need it, but it's there. So why not use it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was all of that, man. All of it. Drew, that is incorrect. Maybe official as like the entire squad, but Gator Nationals that year.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought it was
okay.
Gator.
Gator Nationals, because when we got full circle, Jason had jumped on for a little bit.
Yep.
Because me and Jason fought in like mixed match full circle uniforms.
I remember that. Yeah, I remember.
Very shortly after that, like because it was, I want to say like Bluegrass that year. Jason went back with the All-Stars or something like that. And then,
it might have been right after U.S. Open or something.
It was like right after it was really soon after that. We only did a couple events with Jason on full circle and then he left.
Yeah.
So because then it was 2010 that I fought and I beat Raymond and I beat Tank at the Diamond.
Right. Awesome, man. So what was that? I'm sure so those wins, what was that? What's a memorable win that you won't forget from that?
Ooh, thanks for doing that, Jeff. That was in my mind right there.
Okay.
Diamond National.
That one, 2010, right? Is that what you said?
Either 2010 or 2011. 11.
It was 11. So here's what I think was so great about that. Tell me if this was it for you. You drew Raymond first round.
I did not draw Raymond first round.
What? What did I get wrong?
All of it.
Yeah.
Me and Raymond fought. We were the last ones in the division.
Man, I've been stumped. All right.
I went through. I fought. I drew Grenier first round.
Okay.
I beat Grenier. I beat Cass, and then I beat Raymond.
Wow, just all teammates and then Raymond.
Wow. Yeah, crazy.
And then Jason Grenier.
There was another person in that division too, like an NK fighter. But yeah, I had to fight all those guys, and then I beat Raymond, and then I fought Hamed, and then I fought Jason.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So yeah, I mean that was the one you wanted, right?
Yeah. And it was like beating all those guys back to back was crazy.
Yeah.
At that time was nuts.
And I think if you really think about this, though, Ross, if you think about like that era between like 2009 to like 2012, 13, if you really think about like that, just like group of years, Ross out here, correct? Yeah. He got me. Yeah, Ross sent me home.
I can even tell you what ring it all happened in. I remember it so vividly, man.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
But if you look at that time, I think that was the best time for fighters. If you really look at like the pool of fighters that were there and the amount of talent that they came in, like even people who were really just starting to be something, like what they eventually became, and people who were like past like champions, they were still fighting at that time. Like people say that about, like a lot of different eras in sports. People said a lot of times like 1988 was the best year of the NBA because of the amount of people who were in there. I think around that era might have been the best, and you came out on top the majority of the time.
I had a good couple of years in that. That was a good span for me. Definitely a good span for me. I mean, just having the opportunity to fight all of those guys and knock them all off and be the last one standing, I mean, that's all you can ask for, right? I just wish there were more events with that caliber of fighters in the building. At the time, there were very, very few events where all of those people were there.
Yeah.
Very few events.
That was, I think, the worst thing about that era was
everybody was really split.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it was because of sponsorship. Our different sponsors were like, oh, we're only going to go to these tournaments, or we're only going to go to those. Or NBL was still kind of in the mix. So it was a weird time, but there were a couple of events where all the teams were in the building. U.S. Open, Diamonds. Occasionally, Quebec would get a lot of those teams too. So there were a lot of good events there.
Yeah, it wasn't consistent that this tournament. It would be like every year would be a different tournament that would surprise you. Like, okay, they got everyone here. Oh, wait, next year this tournament did it.
It was funny.
Yeah. So, tell us. All right, let's get into the Impex. How?
Well, yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
Impex. So
let's-
before Impex, Full Circle was done.
Full Circle wasn't done.
No.
Well, no, when Full Circle ended.
But Full Circle didn't end when I left.
No.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. So let's get into Impex and let's get into that.
That's number.
I forgot.
Cross 2, Dingman 0.
Yeah.
Man, go ahead.
Full Circle did not end.
That's right. It didn't end.
We I don't want to say it was a falling out. I didn't personally see it as a falling out. I saw it more as the directions were just my vision of where I wanted to be and where I hoped the team was going to be, and Tom Kelly's vision of where the team was going to go for him as a sponsor. Right. Our visions just didn't match anymore.
That sounds like a politically correct answer.
Well, it's true. It's true.
Is it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, there were little pieces of drama on the team. Whenever a team gets that big, you're going to have little dramas. But it was like, me and Rusty had like gotten into a riff. It's like, I don't care about that. People think I left because me and Rusty got into an argument. Like, come on now, get out of here.
I didn't even know about that.
So yeah, that's what I mean. Like, but most people inside of everything thought that was like people that were in that circle. No pun intended. Thought that was like, Ross Rusty got into this riff at U.S. Open. It's like, come on, man. It's young kids being stupid. Like, it is what it is. And I'm past that. Rusty's past that. But no, what really happened was the team was getting really big, as you guys talked about with Mike. It was getting too big, and I felt like people were taking advantage of Mr. Kelly. I remember at the Irish Open. There had to be at least 20 of us, right? 20 of us that go to the Irish Open.
That's an expensive sponsor.
Yeah.
And multiple divisions. And
of course, because you don't go there for 2 or 3. You go there for 5 or 6.
And there were several fighters who lost their first fight in every single division. And so in the finals – it was, let me see if I can get this right. It was myself, Nikki Pelland, Hamed. Maybe
Cass Sigmund.
Cass was in the final. Claire was in the final
for the gold medal round.
Maybe Hamed wasn't.
I don't think he was.
I think he lost to like Grillo, like one, but he was very close. We had a lot of people that were like, we were in the final round, like fighting that night or the next day. Right. In like the gala. And I remember the team meeting, we're sitting there just getting chewed out by coaches. And we're sitting there looking at each other like, do we have to be here for this? Like we did and it was that same core. It was the core team that came over when we were CJB Wazaru that were still dominating. And we were just getting chewed out for this stuff that these other kids were just like taking advantage of. They just wanted to be along for the ride. And like all of a sudden we brought all this notoriety to Full Circle. And, we wanted the team to be fantastic. And it was. But I felt personally like people were taking advantage of Tom because I thought that when we merged these teams, our intention was we are going to be the best team in the world.
Right.
You can't be the best team in the world and also be a charity team. And like, if people wanted to be on the team, you give them a uniform. Like you can't have both. And at some point, Tom, I think, I don't want to speak for him, but from my perspective, it seemed like we had reached the peak and Tom was satisfied with the success. And it seemed like he just wanted to help people. Because that's the type of guy he was. He had reached the point where he could say, like, I sponsored the best team in the world. And for damn sure he did.
Yeah.
And he was one of the best sponsors I've ever had. He was a phenomenal guy. I loved him. We had very, very many talks and car rides and stuff. But I think at that point he was like, you know what? I just want to start helping people. I want to give people opportunities. And I just felt that you couldn't run the best team in the world and also try and give everybody opportunity. So I'd leave.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard to do that because if you're a sponsor of a sport karate team, you are just trying to help people.
Yeah.
You know? That's hard. That is I didn't ever really look at it like that. But
it was really, and it was a super hard decision. So it's actually funny that you had me on the conversation with Conroy, because he was actually in Rhode Island the week after, and we were hanging out and just like kind of shooting stuff. And we were just talking about old times. And I was like, man, that was the hardest decision that I ever had to make, was leaving that team.
Yeah.
And then the other thing too was like, people thought I already, like, Impex was already in the works, and that's why I left.
It wasn't. It wasn't in the works for a while.
It wasn't even a thought.
Right.
No one even presented that information to me. I actually had talks with Paul Mitchell prior to Impex.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Paul Mitchell had many talks with you.
No.
Trying to get you.
No.
Stop. There's no way.
I think they just knew that there was no shot. Yeah, I think. Yeah, right. But no, they always. I mean, do you consider, Don coming over to me and be like, hey, if you ever want to be part of the team, you're welcome. Like, that's not really a talk to me.
Right.
Oh. That's more like, we like you, and if you ever wanted to be part of the team.
Okay, well, how many of those things happened?
Oh, tons.
That's what I was alluding
to.
But that's not the same as sitting down having a conversation of like, hey, what can we do for you?
Okay.
Of those, we had one. And that was an interesting conversation. Because at the time, and this is no disrespect to those guys that were on the team, because it was Travis, Alex, Greg, Elias. It was guys that I was fighting a lot. It was guys that I was beating a majority of the time. And for me to leave a team that was dominating and to go to Paul Mitchell with a group of guys that I feel like I was fighting anyway, like I was just going to fight all those guys at every event regardless.
Right.
So it wasn't something I wanted. When I sat down with Chris Rappold, because at the time I was still dating Nicole, and we were training together a lot at Chris Rappold's school, Chris was like, hey, why don't you come into my office after training today? I want to talk about, some Paul Mitchell stuff. And I was like, all right, cool. My ears are open. So we sat down. He's like, do you mind if I call Damon? Because Damon had just been nominated as the coach. So I was like, sure. So Damon, Chris got his big notepad, and he puts the notepad down. He gets Damon on speakerphone. Everyone's super nice with me. Hey, we'd love to have you, blah, 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 blah. I think you'd be a great fit, and we could really do big things and all this stuff. And they were like, what do we need to do to get you, to wear a Paul Mitchell uniform? And I wrote down Mike Pombero, Trevor Nash, and I gave it back to him. So you can give me these guys.
Yeah.
I'm in. 100%. I don't care what the sponsorship is. I don't care how many tournaments I go to. I don't care how much money you give me. Say, I want a team fight with these two guys, and that's your only chance of me fighting on the team. And right away, it wasn't even like, we'll call them. It was like, Trevor just, Trevor bought all the schools, and Mike P just had a baby. I'm like, sorry, can't help you.
Yeah.
I'm not interested. I wanted to fight with those guys where I can learn something and be of that elite caliber. And then come to find out a couple of years later, I was hanging out with Trevor at the U.S. Open. They never even told Trevor.
Right.
Oh,
he was
I
like,
told you that.
He was like, I absolutely would have fought with you.
Right.
He was like, 100% I would have fought with you and Mike P. They never even had the conversation with those guys. So that kind of pissed me off too.
Yeah.
Well, they were kind of done with Trevor because Trevor wanted to do the events Trevor wanted to do. But I kind of feel like, and I have no info on this, right?
Yeah.
But I kind of feel like Trevor was just like, had the same mindset as you. He was like, what am I really doing here? Right. What am I doing? I'm just going to go to the ones I want to go to, which was like the Diamonds and like a couple other tournaments.
Yeah.
Right.
And that was basically it. Right.
Yeah.
So if they would have made the
man, that would have been great.
I can't picture Mike P saying, no, that doesn't sound like a great opportunity. And Trevor already said it would have been great.
Right.
Who would have beat us? Who would have beat us?
Right.
Shut the front door.
Would have been
nobody.
Awesome. Yeah.
Nobody would have beat that team. That team could have rivaled, me, Trevor, and Mike P. Even though they were towards the end of their career, I honestly believe that team could have rivaled.
Trevor had a second part of career after that.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mike P was competing after that.
I know, dude. It's crazy. So I think that team could have been as good, if not better, than Jason, Damon, and Trevor.
All right.
really
Well, then
do.
this brings up my question that I was going to ask you. I was really excited because I've been thinking about this. I was like, Trevor's always been busy with. Well, yeah, of course, Trevor's always been busy.
Come on, Ben.
But
Come on, get out of here with that, Ben. Get out. No one wants to hear that, Ben.
Trevor's always been busy, but Trevor would have done it. He would have done it because he did it later on. Right?
Yeah, on his terms. On his terms.
There you go. So I started thinking about the Ross Levine teams, right? The early CJB, the Wazoo, the Full Circle, even the Impacts. I was like, which Ross Levine team?
But see, I got to correct you, man. These weren't Ross Levine teams.
I know
but that's why we were successful.
Right. I know. I guess I'm wording it teams on which Ross Levine was on.
Okay. We had a lot of different combinations. We had a lot of combinations.
A lot of combos. But now I'm trying to think.
Which ones were the most successful?
If you take the Ross, Ryan, Renee versus the Ross, Hamid, Jason Grenier, who wins that one?
Well, I don't. I have to. Who do I put myself into the equation? All right.
Yeah, you can't fight yourself either.
Yeah, I know. If I can't fight myself, Ross, Ryan, Renee, Ross. I think the Ross, Ryan, Renee combo wins.
Ooh.
Because I think Renee neutralizes me. Ryan beats Hamid, and I beat Jason.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now, what about the Full Circle one?
So that was the Full Circle one, really. Was me, Ryan, and Hamid.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah, I guess the Wazoo one and the Full Circle one was the same.
Ryan, and Hamid, they were similar, but we also had like me, Hamid, and Cass, me, Hamid, and Grenier, me, Cass, and Grenier, me, Ryan, and Hamid, me, Ryan, and Renee. Like there were so many combinations, man.
You're right. There's so many combinations. That's
crazy.
right.
You look at the ones you've had with Impacts. You, Avery.
Me, Avery, and Jody.
Yeah.
You, Avery, Jody.
Me, Avery, and Jason.
Yep. I mean, Jason Grenier. Yep. I mean, those two.
Or you, Avery, and Willie also.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, all those are great.
Which one? So who wins? So you, Avery, and Jody. So that would have been early. This is talking like 2013.
All right.
Right?
This was the beginning of Impacts.
Who wins between that team?
Me, Ryan, and Renee.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, the Impex team.
Yeah.
Does the Impex team beat the mystery team of the Ross, Trevor, and Mike P team?
Ooh. No, so no. The reason it's no is only because I'm trying to put Avery. I'm trying to equate Avery to where Avery was at that time.
Right.
Like if you take that team now, like me, Jody, and Avery right now, like even Jody being away from the game, like you put me, Jody, and Avery in the ring with anybody right now, we're beating any team. I don't care.
Well, it's kind of like you asking for Trevor and Mike. It's kind of the same thing. Like Avery asking you guys to come back one more time would be kind of like the same thing, because he's the guy. He's where you were then, He should be able to get whatever he wants right now.
Well, you just said something. You just said something right now. You basically just alluded to that you could point fight right now.
I can point fight right now.
Does that mean you will?
That depends on what these guys say.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
I got to see where I have to see where the state of the world is come January, and we can talk. But I'm in shape, man. I'm in shape.
I might have to take a rickshaw across the ocean to go get over there and do some fighting.
Yeah.
All right. So, Ross, you've been super successful, from, I'd say, 2005 till when would you say you're 2017, 2018? When was the last one?
17.
17? Yeah.
Even 17 was kind of a down year for me. So
right.
16, 17.
Right. But so that's all those years. And you were one of the top guys, of that time. And a lot of people really, you and Raymond, and
it's a long era,
but that's a long era. During this time as well, Yeah, 2018 you won diamonds.
That's
hey?
right.
Again, I beat my teammate.
Right.
On the craziest overtime hook kick, too, by the way.
Yeah, that was
Craziest.
You know what was weird, too, is I told myself the whole fight, I said, don't kick. Do not kick the whole fight. Like, you can't kick against Avery. You can't.
No.
It's impossible.
I've been jammed enough times.
You cannot kick him. But the one one kick in the past, I haven't seen it happen in a very long time, that has consistently hit Avery is a lead leg hook kick from the right side. It sneaks around the guard. I've hit him with it. One of our first events at Capital Classics, Jack had hit him with a couple. And it was something that I knew I wanted to keep in my bag for the very end if I needed it. And I told myself I wasn't going to kick the whole fight, and I was like, well, here goes nothing. Let's see what happens.
Well, see, what's odd about that one is when you went to throw it, Avery was going to jam. He was in the it looked like he was about to hit you, and he was about to jam you.
He pulled back and it caught him.
Yeah. And as it's going, because you were leaning as you're going in, and you're leaning, and Avery's starting to go forward, and it looks like, there goes the jam. But he froze, and you got him. I was like, no way. No way this ended like that.
Because I think Avery expected a side kick, so I think he was going to take it and then go. And when my leg wasn't there, he froze, and it came up around the guard. It was just a weird exchange, and weird that it was – I didn't know that it was at the buzzer. I didn't know that was the buzzer. I know it was tied. And that was my shot to kind of take it. I knew time was winding down, and I didn't want to go into overtime with him. So I just wanted to start throwing some of the weird stuff that I knew might caught him. So,
all right, let's also talk about two other things that kind of were happening and starting or ending during this time. One is college and your degree, and just get into what you do now in physical therapy and all of that. So, what got you?
So it actually goes way back to 2010. So I took an extended period of time off 2010. I had a torn hamstring. So I did almost a full year of therapy. I missed almost the full year in 2010. So if you go back in YouTube, there's a big gap there where I'm not around.
Right.
But that's when I really started, because I was in college, but I didn't really have any direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know if I was going to open a karate school or learn business or whatever. So and then I really enjoyed the rehab, and like my trainer there, Chris Delahanty from New York, was just such a cool dude and always made me feel like I was making progress. And I was like, you know what? I could see myself on this side, like helping other athletes get back in. Like, he just made me feel so good all the time. And thankfully, like I did a good job with my rehab. I had really good guidance, and I never had an injury again, like thankfully with that leg. So, so that's what got me in the mode of doing PT. Finished my undergraduate career, and then I went up to New Hampshire for grad school. I got my doctorate for physical therapy, and that's what I'm doing now.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And then, where you are now, how did the kickboxing thing get started? When did that start?
Yeah, so I had always wanted to do like boxing or kickboxing just because, my style was always a very physical style. So I definitely don't shy away from the contact. I like the super fight divisions, but I hated continuous sparring on NASCA because it was always just such it was a mess. It was an
uncontrolled, chaotic thing.
And as bad as the continuous was on NBL, it was even worse in NASCA because there were no rules. Like it was a free for all.
And every tournament was different too. No one.
Oh God, it was terrible. Some of them gave prize money. So I've done it. I won the continuous grand at Capital Classics a couple times. It was nuts, man. Yeah. I was actually supposed to fight. This is a crazy story. This would have been an all out war. I won the light heavyweight grand continuous. Mm-hmm. And Ninja Fitzpatrick won the heavyweight grand continuous.
Oh, man.
We were supposed to fight on stage. And I think Ninja got in some trouble and didn't make it to the finals, never showed up. And I won the grand. I was supposed to fight Ninja on stage. Wow, They replaced him with, what was his name? He did MMA too. Ryan, he fought on NBL a lot. Big dude, big muscle dude. Good left leg, good right leg, big axe kick.
Yeah.
Ryan.
How am I forgetting this right now, man? I'm not in my zone right now, man. I'm forgetting.
Dude, I'm more interested. What do you mean Ninja got in some trouble?
I don't know. I don't remember, but he wasn't at the finals, and neither was his team.
Yeah.
I don't know. But all I know is I was supposed to fight Ninja, and they ended up putting Ryan. God, why can't I think of his name?
Yeah, I don't know.
The orange uniform, the boss uniform.
Oh,
I can picture it right now.
No, not Ryan Gonzalez.
No, he's from Charlotte, like near where I live.
I know.
You're supposed to know this stuff, Jeff.
Yeah.
You're dropping the ball, man.
I know. It'll come again.
Come on, Jeffipedia.
Yeah, it'll come in a second.
I don't know what happened, man. Maybe he fell asleep. I don't know.
That's right.
But, anyway, I end up fighting this kid Ryan, whatever his last name was. I'm so sorry. He was good too.
Yeah, he's a really good continuous fighter. Really good.
A good continuous fighter too.
Yeah, and he moved Vegas for a while and fought MMA and was in camps for a while and everything. So and was good fighter. So I ended up beating him for the continuous overall. But so anyway, the way it worked out was I moved up to grad school and I was in New Hampshire and there was nobody around. I had reached out to Pedro Xavier, or I didn't reach out directly to Pedro, but somebody that knew Pedro very closely and said that he wasn't doing any type of point training anymore. Because I was going to keep trying to find another camp because I'm 5 hours away from New York now. So I didn't have Jody or any of those guys. But thank you, Jeff. There we go. Ryan Freeman. Yeah.
That's the guy. Good fighter. I think he's a cop now too.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I was like, you know what? Jody knew this guy, Ed Carr, who actually ran a Tokyo Joe school. Tokyo Joe was a small chain that competed a lot in Crane. He was like, he knows a little bit of the point fighting stuff, but at least I know that he's a good dude. He's a good martial artist. I trust him. Like, go there. At least you have a place to train.
We talked about Tokyo Joe on the pod.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
He's from Mike P. He's from
Mike's area. Yeah, exactly. So, cool. All right, yeah. So, in any case, so I start training there, and I didn't tell them. They knew that I did sport karate and stuff. Get out of here. And then I started going to their like pad striking classes, and like I'd never really done it, but they were like, "You're pretty good. Like, why don't you come to our sparring classes?" So I come to the sparring classes, and I'm going in like a point fighter, sidekick, and trying to box a little bit, and I'm doing like holding my own against their pro fighters. And they're like, "Do you want to train and like do some amateur kickboxing?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." So at that time, I started cutting weight a little bit. I liked how my body looked. I was getting in shape. I was learning new skills. So it was just exciting, you pick up a new skill after God, how many years of, point karate. It excited me and I liked how my body was changing. So it was on every level. I was enjoying it and I started doing really well. And then I ended up moving back down to Rhode Island and met the coach that I have now. Took a whole bunch of amateur fights, won some, lost some. And it just turned out where I was treating myself like a pro athlete as an amateur. I had a nutritionist. I was doing strength and conditioning 3 days a week. Like I was doing cryotherapy. Like I was literally doing everything I could possibly do and like training with the best all over everywhere I could go and reach out. That's just always been how I've been. Like if I'm going to do something, I'm going to go all out and be the best at it. Right. So at one point my coach was saying,
Ben's asking you, Ross, I noticed you box/kickbox, traditional side, left side, but you point fight right leg forward. How have you found your vision/defense after being right leg forward? This is a good question. How was the transition? To conventional.
So I'll get to that in a second. But so anyway, like yes, my coach was like, you're doing all this work and it's expensive, man. Like being an amateur kickboxer, if you're doing it like that way it's an expensive hobby. I'm paying all these people that are part of my team and I'm not making anything in return. The sponsorship I was getting were really just people that liked me that were donating is really what it boiled down to. There was no return investment on amateur shows. So I was like, you know what, if you guys think I'm good enough. And again, it was like, I needed to put that faith in someone else. Like if you guys think I'm good enough to go pro and like do all right, then let's do it. So I had a couple events. I had a cool opportunity to go to Dubai And what's really cool is that Corey Schaefer, when he saw that I was doing amateur kickboxing, always paid attention and always sent me messages privately. Always,
this dude likes the Don King for kickboxers.
I would call him the Don King. Corey Schaefer's a really good dude, man. I know he gets a lot
he's
of heat.
good, dude.
He gets a lot of heat because he
fighter.
But he catches a lot of heat. I think a lot of people kind of think he's a jerk because he's always behind the scenes at US Open. He doesn't have time for anybody and doesn't really entertain your questions. So people give him a bad rap for that. But he's really passionate about the ISKA. Really passionate. So he was always following my career, and he was like, listen, he reached out to me. He's like, you've been progressing nicely. He's giving me tips and stuff. And he had said, listen, we're running a show for Glory at the U.S. Open. This is your opportunity if you want it, because, number one, we need to fill the stands. It was very much they needed to put butts in seats, and they knew I was the guy to do it. And I looked at it. They gave me what they call like a promotional deal, which was like a trial. They gave me a 1-fight deal or a 2-fight deal with an option for a third. So basically, if I lost my first fight, they'd give me another one. And if they liked me, they'd give me the third, or they'd cut me. So I looked at it as I'm doing them a favor by putting a whole bunch of tickets in the stands.
Right.
But I also knew that if I made a statement, this was my shot.
Right.
So I shot my shot, and it turned out to be fantastic. And here I am with Glory. So 2 fights later, I'm just sitting around waiting to get back in there. But to answer Ben's question, I actually was always taught traditionally to box orthodox. So I feel very comfortable in the orthodox position. So like vision-wise, my boxing is better in an orthodox position. I haven't switched stances very much. Actually, I haven't really switched stances at all in my pro career, but it's coming.
Right.
I'm reserving that skill set for when I absolutely need it.
Yeah. Definitely.
But you fight like traditional or conventional or orthodox.
Orthodox, left leg forward. Yep. Left leg, left hand jab, switch kicks on my left, right leg power kicks. Yep.
Awesome.
Dutch style.
Awesome. Yeah.
Okay.
Love it, man.
So wait, so you fight, okay, you've had your nose broke, I'm assuming, right?
Oh yeah, plenty.
All right. Same. This is odd. I was talking to Eugene Plowd last night when we did Fist Kicks and Flicks. I was a guest on there. We were just talking about fights, talking about having your nose broke. He says, no, I've never had my nose broke before. Which I'm like, this thing's been, this schnoz has been busted 17,000 times.
Oh, yeah.
The interesting part is, like, you could tell, like, this side is getting pushed in more, right? You can just tell by the way it looks.
Yeah.
This is the crazy question. Has it been pushed both ways?
I'm sure it has, but thankfully I've not broken my nose kickboxing.
Wow. And
I attribute that to the elusiveness and just that the control of not getting hit point fighting.
Right.
I'm always like just out of range. Like I find myself, I obviously get hit, I get hit in practice, I get hit in fights, but it's never the shot that really stings me. I'm always just out of the way, which I still need to get better at, but that's something that's kind of ingrained in me, just that not getting hit, moving my head and just being that far out of range.
Your style when you would point fight would actually breed it to where if there was going to be some contact, you would take it because you were always straight up and you would lead here. But sometimes, I think how you got cut, it was the elbow, right? Wasn't it an
raised elbow? But that was only because so Canadian Open, again, I forget the year, but Canadian Open was a great event. It was one of those events where Mr. Duvers, Mr. Bernardo, they always managed to get a tremendous amount of talent to that event.
Right.
And honestly, they gave good prize money, but it wasn't spectacular. It was just everyone respected Mike Bernardo and the Duvers brothers.
Right.
That's just what it was. So we always congregated there, and they always, for whatever reason, they always had brand new mats. And it was like, what are you guys doing? Yeah. We were on stage, and the mats were so slippery. And me and Raymond were fighting I could have grabbed his shirt. He could have grabbed my shirt. And we just both took off, and there was no time to even, extend our elbows. And I just ate it. like real hard. It was nobody's fault. Just nature.
Right.
Yeah.
I was on the wrong end of it.
I know you only got a few minutes left because I know we got to get done. You got to get your
Get my draft going.
Yeah, man. So just let's, again, you're kind of not sure. You're kind of in limbo of what's next with, but you want to do this for a while, right? Yeah.
I mean, I'm going to do it as long as, one, my body will allow me to. And I truly envision myself with a belt around my waist somehow, somewhere. When I decided I wanted to be a pro kickboxer, again, it's those things where it's like, if I'm going to do something, I'm doing it until I hit that top of the mountain. And whatever happens from there, we'll see. But, my goal is I've had a privilege to train with a lot of really, really good kickboxers, some of the best in the world, some really good coaches. I've got an awesome coaching staff, and the people that I surround myself with now are phenomenal fighters across all different disciplines. I've got a lot of training partners in the UFC and Bellator, all over, man. I train with some killers. And I want to fight the best guys in the world. I want to fight the best in the world. I want to beat the best in the world, and I want to challenge myself. And I don't ever want to go back, 10 years from now and be like, man, I should have taken that fight, or I should have kept going, or why did I stop? I never want to feel that way. I never want to live feeling like I made a mistake or I regret something. So it's just, I'm just going to keep pushing this. And as long as my body will allow me to do it, I will be doing it.
Awesome, man. Awesome. Love
so it's interesting along that line. So there's a guy who lives like 10 minutes from me. He's got a kickboxing gym. Mm. He's under contract with Glory also. It's got Richard Abraham. Maximus. Yep. Yeah, Richard Abraham. Super cool dude.
Right? I'd love to fight Rich.
I was thinking about that. Are you guys in the same weight class?
Yep.
All right.
So I've watched him fight a number of times because they usually have the Glory out here at the Sears Center.
Yep.
Right? Because there's a good amount of gyms that pull.
I was supposed to be on that card. I was supposed to be on that card in November. I was nursing an injury. I had hurt my ankle when I fought Sean Choice in September. They wanted me on that card. I was supposed to fight Mike Lemaire, who's now ranked number 10. And I had a feeling that if I took that fight, whoever won would crack the top 10 rankings. And I turned it down just because I didn't want to take that fight, even though I thought it was a winnable fight, but I didn't want to take it. And then if I won, I would be even more banged up for what comes at the end of the year. But if I lost, then it would set me back. I was like, and I don't want it to be because I'm hesitant. So I'm like, you know what? It was a great year. At the time, I had just, me and Maddie just bought a house. So we had a lot going on. We had just got engaged. I was like, let's take some time. Let's enjoy this. Let's regroup. Let's be a martial artist. Let's start learning new skills, develop myself a little bit more. And that's what our staff, my coaching staff and my manager decided we were going to do. And it was all building up beautifully. I had an event planned for March in Belgium. And unfortunately, the universe had different plans. So now we're just on hold.
That's what I'm talking about, Mike. Yeah.
I'd love to fight
Chicago. It is in Chicago.
I might have to go to Chicago just to fight, just get into a fight somewhere.
Well, I don't know about that, but so if you had to pick, you know what, this is the guy I want to fight in my division. Who do you think it would be? Who's a guy you just that guy and me, that would be fun.
I mean, all of them, man. Everybody in the top 10 is an awesome fighter. There's a lot of Americans in the top 10. I want to say there's 3 or 4 out of the 10 are Americans. So as much as I want to fight those guys, I didn't get into professional kickboxing to fight the best guys in the U.S. The way I see it, when there's that many Americans in the division, it should kind of be us against them. I mean, yeah, I'd love to fight Richard Abraham and Troy Jones, another one also from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. Awesome.
Yeah, I know.
Troy Jones is phenomenal. I'd love to fight Troy.
That's my hometown. That's where I grew up. Was Brooklyn
really?
Park.
Yeah. Do you follow Troy Jones?
No. So I know who he trains with.
Okay.
Right? Troy. I don't know Troy that well. I know who he trains with. I know his camp.
Yeah, hell of a fighter, man. Really, really good fighter. So I'd love to fight all those guys. Omari Boyd is fantastic. Mike Lemaire, all those guys are good fighters. But, I think it should be U.S. against the world, man. I was really pumped because I was going to fight a guy from the UK, good fighter, Amari Diedrich. that was gonna be a banger of a fight. He's built like me, just stocky, muscular dude. And we, two international guys fighting overseas. Like, to me, that's what it's all about. So I want to see some of those top guys, from overseas and fight those guys. I want to fight the best in the world. I can pick a fight with the guy in the U.S. whenever I want.
That's right.
But I want to fight the guys from overseas, man. But all in due time. And you got to have the championship mindset. I'm going to fight all those guys eventually. If I'm going to be the champion, I got to fight them all eventually.
Yep.
So I just try and I put the target on my back, and I just ride like that.
You mentioned something else. You mentioned that you and Maddie just got a house.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, since it's been almost a year.
All right, so you guys got a new house. Do you guys got a date for your wedding yet?
It was supposed to be November 8th of this year. We pushed it back to next year, so November of next year.
All right.
Okay. All right, yeah. And where are you guys going to do it at?
It's going to be in Massachusetts. So
right,
nice
I'll be there.
Country club. Yeah. Appreciate it, man. Things are going great, man. Honestly, I'm very fortunate because I know a lot of people are going through some really tough times right now with COVID and businesses shutting down. And I'm just very fortunate that everything so far has been going in the right direction with my life. Between getting engaged, having my house, my fiance and I both got new jobs during this time, and we're both flourishing. We're saving money. We're just doing well, and I think it comes down to again, work ethic. We complement each other really well. We work incredibly hard. We always try and compete against each other in every little thing. So whether it's just work related or training or who's going to do the next cool thing, Maddie and I push each other really well, and we stay positive. There's no sense in you can't throw yourself a pity party and expect to get anywhere. Everyone's going through a hard time. It's a very even playing field. So you got to make the most out of it and come out of this with a new skill. So I think I've just been fortunate that things are going the right way for me, and I'm just going to keep working hard and see what comes next.
Awesome. All right. So we end the show every time with you, the guest, leaving a voicemail to the world. So what would you like to tell everybody in this martial arts world, whatever world that we got here with our insiders here that watch the show?
Thanks, Mike. Mr. DeCastro, what's up, man? I haven't seen your son in a long time. Hope you guys are doing well. Mikey, that kid's talented too. Super talented. Any case, I guess my voicemail to the world right now is, number one, just thank you to everyone who's always been supportive of me, been a fan of me, watched me, and helped me grow. Because I literally put everyone on my back when I step in the ring or really do anything. Sport karate has molded me, and the people I've met and the relationships I've forged here are truly, I carry that with me in every endeavor that I take. So I really appreciate the continued support. But I think right now what people really need to hear is just, care about each other a little bit more, love each other a little bit more. Stop fighting. Don't worry about, I'm a Democrat, I'm a Republican, I'm this, I'm that. Just be a good, upstanding citizen, make good choices, help your neighbor, and work hard. I think if we all do those things, if we all just work a little bit harder and have that 1% better mentality, if everyone would just get 1% better every single day, this world would be a great place. So I think that's my voicemail. I hope everyone does some good work with that, and I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much, Ross.
If you loved this episode, and frankly, even if you didn't, don't forget to subscribe to the pod.
Do it.
Ask your friends to subscribe, comment, like us, give us a 5-star review, leave a review on Apple Podcast. This has been another episode of Inside Scoop with Alex and Jeff. I'm Alex Dingman.
I'm Jeff Doss. See you guys next week. Thanks, Ross.
Hey, guys. Thank you.